When you collect Scooby Doo collection sets like these, you're going to get copies of things that you've already picked up in other collections. It's just inevitable, because the way they put some movies in here, you'll say, wow, I have about 3 copies of Scooby Doo on Zombie Island, but this is the only one I've seen with Aloha Scooby Doo on it, outside of just getting Aloha Scooby Doo by itself. Well, that's how you have to tackle these box sets, collection sets of the Scooby-Doo movies. They don't have, hey, every single Scooby-Doo movie ever made in one set. They really should make one of those, Warners. Get on that. Really, seriously, get on that. But today we're talking about 4 summer break Scooby-Doo movies. Now, I've already talked about Camp Scare and Zombie Island, but I decided to rewatch The Monster of Mexico because I just really enjoyed that one. I love Zombie Island. I will never miss an opportunity to watch that movie. It is fantastic. The first 4 Scooby-Doo movies in the Scooby-Doo revival era are just so good. And the 5th one, I think, is Legend of the Vampire. That one's also pretty good, but it drops a lot of the new designs for the Mystery Gang. But they do something interesting, and I think Monster of Mexico is like the 6th or the 7th, or maybe even the 8th in the new era of Scooby-Doo movies. The era right after the first 4 Scooby-Doo movies, they changed the designs of the Mystery Gang back to their original outfits, instead of the new designs that the first 4 movies we're working with here. They redesigned Fred and Daphne, especially. Velma is a little bit changed up, and Shaggy is unchanged, and Scooby is unchanged. In the earlier movies, though, they tried to get a new voice actor for Shaggy, and honestly, I kind of really liked that voice actor they picked up. I don't know his name, but the guy that they picked for Shaggy was pretty good in the earlier Scooby-Doo movies. And the guy they picked for Scooby-Doo was also pretty good. But by the time of Aloha Scooby-Doo, and especially with the Monster of Mexico, the Aloha was, I think, during or right after the What's New Scooby-Doo era. But Monster of Mexico was right after the first 4 era. During the What's New Scooby-Doo era, before they decided to put out the What's New Scooby-Doo outfits. I think that's correct. This is one of the few movies, I think, with Legend of the Vampire also being one of them. But in Monster of Mexico, they brought back in the original voice actresses for Daphne and Velma. So, and they had already brought back Casey Kasem for What's New Scooby-Doo. So this is probably one of the few times in the newer era of Scooby-Doo where we had the original voice cast for a lot of these characters, except for Don Mesnick. Don Mesnick, one of the voices of Scooby-Doo, one of the most popular, iconic voices for Scooby-Doo, has sadly passed away by this point, I think. But Don Mesnick is not in Monster of Mexico, but the other 4 are, like Frank Welker's Ben Freddy Forever. Casey Kasem sadly passed away, but Casey was still in his A-game here. Casey's interesting to me. When Casey is standing by himself with Frank, obviously, so Frank's always there, but with some newer voice actresses for Daphne and Velma, Casey Kasem doesn't seem to have as much energy and puns, like his classic Shaggy puns that he used to always make during the Where Are You era of Scooby-Doo, and even in 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo and the other movies like that. Shaggy was known for making a lot of puns. We didn't get too many of those anymore in the newer era of Scooby-Doo. Shaggy sadly stopped being the punster master. He has quite a few good puns in Monster of Mexico, and he also had a couple of good ones in some of the other ones. I'm going to talk about Legend of the Vampire when I bring out that next collection, but in this one, he's got the energy. Casey Kasem has the energy. He's got that old Shaggy vibe. I think he's just very excited to be working with a lot of the old original voice actors for these characters again. It's like bringing the gang back together, and everybody's just having a whole lot of fun, and I can really enjoy that. And the original, and a lot of it's rearrangements, but a lot of the soundtrack is from the Where Are You era. that classic soundtrack feel and sound is just fantastic. Monster of Mexico is a movie that you can watch again and again and again and again and still have a lot of fun with it. Camp Scare, classic. It's classic Scooby-Doo. Fred is very fun in Camp Scare. He's the one who was part of the Little Moose camp, and he's all about trying to help out the campers and all that. He's just very excited. I love Fred. He's like very excited no matter where he goes, so he's fantastic at that. I think the best ones, obviously, on this set is Zombie Island. I don't think you can really get too much better than actually making things real supernatural stuff. The shtick is tired, but it's been going on for 60, 70 years now, dude. It is tired, but it's still fun. But I like when you throw in the supernatural bits. That's why Zombie Island's probably still always going to be one of my favorite ones of the Scooby-Doo movies. And of course, Aloha Scooby-Doo. That's the one I had never seen before until finally watching it on this collection. Aloha Scooby-Doo was very fun. It doesn't have the energy or entertainment value of Monster of Mexico to me, but the mystery vibe in Aloha Scooby-Doo was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. Obviously, they're not difficult mysteries. If you're a Columbo fan, if you watch the entirety of Columbo, you're gonna get these mysteries immediately. But sometimes the red herring will trick you. The red herring didn't trick me in this one too much. I knew who the monster was, but there was somebody who I thought was going to be his accomplice who ended up being innocent. So that was pretty. Yeah, I was surprised. That's worth something in Scooby-Doo's mysteries at any rate. Aloha is pretty fun. All of these are pretty fun. The best one's obviously going to be Zombie Island, but you can't go wrong with these collections. These are always fun to watch. And honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest here, I like the longer movie-length Scooby-Doo stories because they give you time to breathe with the mystery. It gives you time to build the mystery. It gives you time to build up a red herring without making it completely obvious that this is a red herring. They can actually tell a story and give you a couple scenes with this person and make them feel suspicious or make you think that might be the actual guy. There are a lot of opportunities to tell a rich and detailed story, and obviously lots of chase scenes, obviously. Instead of just having one big chase scene, there's like 2 or 3 tier chase scenes in each act, so that's pretty fun. And I just really like the movie length ones. So the new Scooby-Doo movies is also fantastic length for a Scooby-Doo story. The older Scooby-Doo Where Are You era, obviously that's classic. It's timeless. It's timeless. You can't go wrong with the classic Scooby-Doo formula. But in an era after Where Are You, the thing that What's New, probably what failed with What's New, is the short runtime. You really needed to make those hour-long episodes. You really did, and that probably would have helped you expand and tell richer stories and more detailed stories instead of just, oh, the gang just shows up here for some reason, something's going on for some reason. What's the explanation? Oh, Fred knows a guy, and that's why we're here. I like that. I like that you're using Fred. I like that you're utilizing Fred. Fred needs to be utilized. He's one of the best characters. He's my favorite. But, yeah, you really needed to give this longer runtimes. That's why the movies are the perfect Scooby-Doo experience, in my opinion. If you want to watch Scooby-Doo, you cannot go wrong with any of these movies. They're just perfect capsules of what Scooby-Doo is. And they have tiers of effectiveness. Obviously, some movies are better than others. But these 4 are the perfect example of good Scooby-Doo. Just general sense. Pick this up, watch all 4 of them. You'll probably like Zombie Island the most, obviously, because it's got the best one. And I agree with that, because they have the opening sequence. In all of the earlier movies, I think the first 5 or 6 of them, definitely the first 5, they played the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You theme. It's like a remix or a remix. Each time it's a different remix of the song, but they played the song. They had a lot of music, insert songs, and all that great stuff. In the later movies, they kind of stopped doing that as heavily. They didn't even put an insert song, insert opening theme, where they did a remix of the Scooby Doo Where Are You song, and that kind of hurts the vibe. The vibe of the earlier movies definitely encapsulates a better era of Scooby-Doo than the later ones, but you can't go too wrong with this. You can't go too wrong. You got a great example of the old era, an example of the new era, and two middle eras of Scooby-Doo. This is fine. It's a very fine experience.